values. You have probably heard of them before, and you may think they only apply to big corporations. You've probably seen them on their wall or on their marketing efforts. And they do apply to big corporations, but they also apply to small business. So Jim Collins did a study, and he looked at what made most of the large corporations worldwide successful. And what he found was they all had a list of well-defined core values, and that is what really helped them succeed. And regardless of what the changing business environment was, they stuck to those core values. So it does apply to large business, but in my years of experience of working with small business, this really is critical to having a business that you enjoy and that you like working at. So we've probably all had thought about monster businesses, or maybe feel like our firm might be turning into that, but it's critical to go back to sort of the beginning and look at what your core values are for your firm. So what are core values? This really is the heartbeat of you, because most of the folks I'm talking to are solo, you and your firm. And it is what you are today, not what you aspire to be. So for me, as a solo practitioner as well, these really came down to what are the non-negotiables for me. So what values do I have in business that I feel we have to abide by here at my firm? And those are the things that irritate me if we don't meet them, or if we're not, in the ballpark of what those values are, and if my staff is not functioning at that same level and we're not on the same page. You want to write them in everyday language. You want to make sure that there are things that keep you motivated. They're going to keep you focused, and they really do contribute significantly to your success. And I think most important for us as solo practitioners is this really gets everybody aligned around your practices, your ethics, your moral code, and where you want your firm to be. So some examples here, I really like Disney. They have probably 10 or 15 of them, but they're super easy to understand. So one is make everyone's dreams come true, and you better believe it. And a third one is never a customer, always a guest. So if you've been to Disney, you can probably say that they really do fulfill these. I've seen it, I've been there, and this really is the heartbeat of Disney. And I think it has significantly contributed to their success. So I convinced you to do core values. So how do you even get started in creating some core values? So there's a lot of different methods for developing them. And depending on how big your firm is and how many people you consider on your leadership team, you may want to get other folks involved than just you. But really a way to start is, for me, and it was me, myself, and I really thought about the things that were non-negotiable for me. So one of the things that I've always highly valued is meeting deadlines. And so for my core value here at our firm, we have one that says we keep our promises. So we meet our deadlines and we respond in a timely manner. If we say we're going to have something done by a certain date, we get it done, or we tell people, what the issue is. So for me, it's huge on communication, huge on meeting deadlines. So that was a good place for me to start, because I knew right away, hey, something about deadlines has to be one of our core values. You can also think about someone that you admire. This can be another lawyer that you maybe work with at a different law firm. It can be a mentor, and just write down the qualities that you really admire about those people. Think about your employees you've had, the good and the bad. So think about an employee that represents what you want your firm to represent, and write down those qualities. Also think about the bad employees, the ones that just didn't seem to fit. What was it that didn't fit for you? What irritated you? What was really, causing you to not have a good relationship with them? What I've found most of the time when we have an employee that kind of just irritates us or they just don't seem to be on the same page, it's really because our values aren't aligning. So you can brainstorm words, phrases, things that are important to you, and then take that big list and go through it and look for things that seem to group together that have sort of the same topic. And once you start grouping them together, then you can start developing some sentences or some phrases. So in the case of Disney, they just have a short sentence with a few words. You can also have, like in my case, we keep our promises, and then I have a couple sentences after that describing what that means to us. You can have one word. So there's a lot of different options of what you think is going to fit best for you and for your team. So draft those out, and I recommend you really stay committed to this, and even if it doesn't seem like it's exactly right, still write it down. You have to start somewhere and start with something. And then put those on your desk and look at them every day for a few weeks. And it's really going to come forward with you of whether these are going to work or not and what needs to be tweaked and what doesn't. You can also run them by employees that you've had for a long time and you feel like they are in alignment with you and say, hey, here's what I have for some core values. Does this resonate with you? And do you think this really represents who we are right now and what I am trying to build as our firm? So once you have them done, you can use them for so many things, and this really needs to become what you do every day. And all of your employees understand what the values are, and you hold each other accountable. So in the example of mine with meeting deadlines, if one of us doesn't meet a deadline, then one of the other employees or me is going to say, hey, you didn't meet the deadline. You were outside of our value. How are we going to correct this so this doesn't happen again? So it really forms a basis for accountability within the team. You can use them in your performance evaluation. So model your performance evaluations around the values. If those are the heartbeat of the company, are your employees meeting those values and exhibiting what you want them to exhibit? I also recommend you use them in your hiring process. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. At the simplest form, just show them to the candidates and ask them if they agree with the values and tell them these are non-negotiables for us. If you can't get on board with these, then we are going to have issues and this probably isn't going to work. You can send them to them and have them write a written piece back to you about how they feel about the values or whether they resonate with them or not. So there's a lot of different things you can do in the hiring process, but I suggest at some level you get these out to the candidates so they know really what they're walking into, and hopefully your candidates are mature enough to say, you know what, this just doesn't resonate with me, and frankly I don't want to be held accountable to this, so this job is not going to be a good fit for me. You can also put them on your website for potential clients to see, and that also gives potential clients a really good idea of what's important to you as a firm. So there's a lot of different places to use these, but they need to become in really the DNA of your firm. So I hope this is helpful. I hope it inspires you to start working on core values, and if you have an outside person that can help you create them, that usually works really well. But if you don't, you can just start creating them yourself. Bye-bye.